Hello, dear YouTube viewer. Welcome to the PC Gaming Weekspot pre-show with me, Colm, and my lovely friend Matthew. Hi, Matthew. How are you?
I am good, thank you.
Good. When we started recording this, you were singing me a little song. You seem quite chipper.
I was singing about how much I love the Weekspot.
Good. Has Christmas taken over? You know, you're just in a very cheerful, joyous mood.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm feeling massively Christmassy. Like, we're quite close to Christmas, but I don't know. Like, the last 14 years, Christmas has always meant like a manic rush because I've been on magazine deadlines,
right? Yeah,
or trying to get video content prepped for the Christmas holidays. But this year, because as you'll remember, I was fired.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot that.
Yeah. If you remember, I don't have any of that to worry about. So actually, I'm kind of left to my own devices in December, and just deciding what I'm going to fill that time with.
Excellent. Well, delighted.
Maybe some cyberpunk.
Maybe, you know.
Maybe some cyberpunk.
They've been talking it up like it sounds like it's going to be quite a big game. So, plenty of hours to fill, I suppose.
We shall see. We'll be just talking about that next week, won't we?
Yes, we will. We'll be talking about other things this week. Do you want to talk about the things that we'll be talking about this week? No. Do you want to do that now? Would you like to start
doing the Weekspot?
Yeah, do you want to do the Weekspot?
I feel like people have had their fill of banter. Oh, my lips are very sore today.
Have you got any Vaseline, aloe vera, perhaps? You could just lick them. Constantly lick.
Yeah, I used to know. Let's not beat around the bush. A real freak who used to eat chapsticks.
Oh, this not an adult, I'm guessing, like a weird child.
No. When I was in junior school.
What, like strawberry?
Yeah, like it was like a food.
But did anyone tell him that there's something much tastier he could eat, like food? Like that's God.
And the thing is, when you see a dude eating chapstick, you just think, I'll probably steer clear of that.
Yeah,
that whole deal.
That man is going to grow up to be a deviant, and I want none of that.
I don't actually know what he does now. Maybe he's like head of Apple or something.
A serial killer. Yeah,
unlikely.
Maybe I'd like to know more about that man. If you can get an update, that would be marvelous. But until then, hello and welcome to the PC Gaming Weekspot. Welcome to the PC Gaming Weekspot, your recap of the last 7 days in PC video gaming. My name is Colm Ahern, and joining me this week, the festive friend of mine. It is the one, the only, it's Mr. Matthew Casso.
Hello.
Hello, Matthew.
Or should that be ho, ho, ho?
Oh, very good, Matthew. I suppose we can wait a couple of weeks to do all of the Christmassy stuff. Could we do, this is talking shop on air, so perhaps we shouldn't, but are there enough Christmas games to do a Christmas-themed Mystery Steam reviews?
There are 100% enough games.
I think there are. Like even...
Yeah, easy.
Yeah, there's enough games set
as Christmas. You can throw in like snow and winter levels.
And one of the Batmans was set at I'm giving stuff away now. I'm giving stuff away.
I'm going to make notes.
Yeah, don't.
We'll do that Arkham Origins.
But a momentous Weekspot this week, Matthew, as it's all official now. And the PC Gaming Weekspot is also, as well as being a weekly video chat thing, it is a podcast that people can just listen to if they don't want to look at our beautiful faces. Why they wouldn't want to look at our beautiful faces, who knows? But they
that means they don't get to see me eating this Rennie.
Yeah,
they just have to listen to it, ASMR style.
Some people Some people are probably.
Is that ASMR?
I think so, yeah. My knowledge of it isn't great, but I would say what you've done there is like tip-top ASMR.
I don't want to listen to it just in case I get too turned on.
Sexy. Matthew, while your gob is downing a Rennie. Would you like to? This is going to be difficult while you're kind of eating a Rennie, but could you?
It's done. It's done.
Okay, excellent.
No, it's all over my teeth. I can see it.
See, this is what you're making. You know, the audio version, if you want to enjoy that, you'll get the majority. But will you see Matthew's teeth coated in Rennie? You won't. You'll have to imagine it. Maybe that's better. I don't know. But Matthew, would you like to crank open that news gob of yours?
Not really, because it's a mess. But anyway.
Because I've got some information.
I've got big white tongues in the Rennie. That's scary.
Info snacks for his gob.
I look like a corpse. I'm not going to crank open my gob, but imagine that I am if you're listening.
In terms of the smaller news stories this week, during a conversation with a fan on Twitter, Deep Silver confirmed that Dead Island 2 is still in fact coming.
Bullshit.
The mad thing about this, right? So when I saw this, I was like, what is the timeline of events for Dead Island 2? So it was originally announced in 2014, and Techland, who were the developer of the first one, were meant to be the original devs, but then they jumped to Dying Light 2. Then Jaeger of Spec Ops The Line fame, they got the gig. And then Deep Silver gave the game to, or put Sumo Digital on the game. Sumo Digital of, oh my god, I can't think of any game that Sumo Digital have done. What did Sumo Digital do?
Pass?
The Snake Pass. They did something else as well. But the English developer Sumo Digital that I can't think. Did they do Little Big Planet?
They did some Hitman levels as well.
They did, yeah. They done things, but they were announced as the developer in March of 2016. But finally, the last developer attached to this project, Dambuster, who probably their best known game is Homefront: The Revolution. They were announced as the developer in August 2019. So it's still coming, apparently. Have you any love for Dead Island? Or, if the answer is yes, I'm guessing you're going to follow up that by saying the love is for the song Who Do You Voodoo Bitch, which is obviously a classic of our time.
No, I hated the first Dead Island. I gave it an absolutely brutal kicking in a print magazine, which was fun. I didn't like it. I thought it was a big old mess. I really like Dying Light. Obviously, that's got no relevance because that's Techland. But I wish them well.
Yeah,
I quite like Homefront: The Revolution.
Do you know what, Matthew? I think it was far better than people gave it credit for. Like, again, it's not the best game. Like, it was decent. I had a decent time with it. And I suppose maybe a bit of that is down to the fact that, it's quite a condensed, short game as far as I can remember. I thought it was all right. And people gave that a right kicking, which I thought was a little unfair.
Sort of like a urban Far Cry, I thought.
Yep, yeah.
If anything, I think the new Far Cry 6 is going to be... sounds quite a lot like Homefront: The Revolution. I'm
sure they've taken all their inspiration from that, perhaps. In other news, Bandai Namco and Wallace and Gromit Studio Aardman are working together once again. The last time they worked together was on 2018's 11/11 Memories Retold, which I'd imagine the majority of people can't remember, but it was this...
I played it.
It was an adventure game, wasn't it? With watercolour style
yeah, but it was
aesthetic.
nicely done. Yeah, I liked the it had this sort of filter that made it all look like I don't know anything about art.
But it was like watercolor paints, but it also looked like the images were sort of shimmering,
smudgy and things. I thought it was pretty good.
But this project that they're going to be working on will apparently cover, quote, multiple media, according to a press release from Aardman, whatever that means.
Maybe it'll be a mashup. It'll be Wallace and Gromit do the First World War.
Oh, that would be good. Well, like I was going to say, when you hear Aardman doing something with a video game company of any kind, your mind instantly goes to Wallace and Gromit, or maybe like Chicken Run, or like, you know, their films. It doesn't go to like this quite somber First World War game.
Yeah,
so
Aardman do a lot more though. I think they've done a lot of like adverts, and they've done some music videos and stuff that people don't necessarily associate with them. You think of like a tortoise talking about its gas bill, but there's more to them than that.
In other news, following on what has been quite a rocky launch, Empire of Sin game director Brenda Romero has said that they are, quote, dedicated to making this game as great as it can be, and that's why the feedback we have been getting from you is so important to us. Over the coming weeks and months, we will be working on delivering patches to improve your experience with the game. Empire of Sin, I know, a game that you were looking forward to, and I had kind of had my eye on it as well. But yeah, the reports about some of the I've heard of like save files corrupting, characters getting stuck in environment, and just really quite big bugs, I suppose, have turned me off it, at least for the time being. Like maybe it's something I'll visit maybe in the new year or something.
I'm happy to, like, it's not like I need to play this so the story isn't spoiled. I'm happy for it to get tidied up. I wonder if if a lot of these late games that are coming later in the year have been trying to do their final run and all their debugging and whatnot. Like in an age of COVID, if that's made it just a bit harder to get on top of that stuff.
Perhaps. Yeah.
We shall see.
In other news, Rare have announced that from January next year, Sea of Thieves will be going down the Seasons and Battle Pass route rather than the monthly updates they've been doling out. Throughout these 3-month-long seasons that they'll be doing, there'll be live events, rewards, other bits and bobs, Sea of Thieves related, like boats and shit.
Yeah.
Sea of Thieves. I kind of never really went, to be honest, I never really went back to it after its initial launch, when, like, we talk about games being ravaged on launch because of, although Sea of Thieves wasn't necessarily because it was buggy, it was just because there was a lack of content and drive when it came to the game. But yeah, I never really went back to it because of that. But
yeah, I know some people who absolutely love it. I really like what I've played of it. And I like that, you can drop in at any time. It kind of makes sense. It's not like I think if you start playing Sea of Thieves now, you'll have an easier time than if you try and play, say, Destiny.
Yes. Yeah.
I imagine it's got a big community. They'll probably be happy with that. I didn't realize they were doing monthly updates. I didn't realize it was as regular as that.
Detention, which is the terrific, I was going to say unsung, but I'm not sure if it actually is. But a terrific.
Is that the one that got banned?
No. So Detention was a horror game from 2017 from Red Candle Games. And Red Candle Games are the developer that also developed Devotion, which was the one that got banned. But Detention, their first game, it's had a Netflix adaptation. The first 2 episodes are out now. I haven't watched them yet, but Detention was a terrific 2D horror / kind of adventure style game that had a really interesting art style set in the 1960s Taiwan. It is set in a school. Really cool, really proper scary shit. Yakuza Like a Dragon. That has been missing a key feature that nobody knew about, apparently, until it got patched. So players should be able to see certain enemies having the word weak over their heads when the person in your party has something that is strong against them, whether it be an ability or whatever. Now, the Suji Dex within the game was able to tell you about the particular weaknesses and strengths of your enemies, but you were actually meant to see it during battle. Yeah, and you now can. So,
well, there we go.
And finally, Fail Better Games have announced Mask of the Rose, which is a romantic visual novel set in the fallen London universe. Creative director Emily Shore said, quote, players will get to spend more up-close and personal time with a few well-known characters and play through a story that's more centered on individual relationships. We're building a story that doesn't require any prior knowledge of the setting, but still has secrets that may surprise veterans. Fail Better are setting up a Kickstarter campaign to fund the game next year, and they plan on releasing it in 2022. And
Nice.
those are your information snacks for the week. Headlines and hot takes is the part of the PC Gaming Weekspot where we discuss the bigger news stories of the last week. And this one is very much near and dear to my heart and Matthew's. Because, look, I know how many video game films have there been? Probably too many. And also how many video games have been rumored or picked up by film studios only for it to be in development hell for years and years and years. Well, this one looks like it's happening. Metal Gear Solid, because we got word.
This is a clip from the game, not the film.
Yes, this isn't. For those watching, yes, this is Metal Gear Solid 5 footage. But we got word first from Deadline. They reported that playing the role of Solid Snake in the Metal Gear Solid film would be Oscar Isaac, and then director Jordan Roberts. They came on Twitter afterwards and pretty much confirmed it. That yes, the man who probably is best known for, well, most recently he's known for his work on the Star Wars franchise, is going to be stepping into the shoes once filled by one David Hayter and then Kiefer Sutherland, at least from a voice capacity. Now, the film itself, before we get into the casting of Oscar Isaac, Roberts appeared on the Animal Crossing talk show thing during the summer. And he had said that he had hoped that filming was going to be started by now, but COVID. He actually said that his quote is, "COVID has sort of changed everything and we're figuring out a bunch of stuff. I've been working on this thing for 6 years trying to make it so it is the disruptive punk rock, true to Metal Gear, true to Kojima-san, spirit version of what this is. I will continue to fight for it every day." And a little thing that somebody on Twitter dug up was that during a press tour for the quite middling Netflix film...
I quite liked it.
I thought it was all right. Triple Frontier.
Why do you call it? I guess it is middling. Yeah.
But yeah, it starred Ben...
I'd say middling, verging on fine. Anyway.
Starring Ben Affleck, Charlie Hunnam, Oscar Isaac, I suppose. But yeah, during the press tour for that, Isaac, the cast was asked, like, "Oh, who do you want to play in what film or whatever?" And Isaac was like, "Do you know what? I'd love to be Solid Snake." Well, your dream has come true, Oscar. So Matthew, does this casting excite you? First of all, before we get into casting the rest of the Metal Gear Solid film.
Yeah, I like Oscar Isaac. I think he's a good actor. He wouldn't be my natural, like, not dream casting, but it's not necessarily something, he isn't something I would naturally put in the role in my head, if that makes sense.
Why? Who would that be, out of curiosity?
I don't know. I've always thought, like, I think you have to kind of be a bit gruffer, a bit kind of like meaner. I don't know, maybe like a Timothy Oliphant or something.
Okay.
Kind of channeling that kind, more his like Deadwood sort of style, kind of where he was quite kind of stoic,
Right.
Oscar Isaac, I find like almost a bit too charming.
Yeah, I mean, I always envisioned before he was cast as Snake in Metal Gear Solid 5. Even though he has the blonde hair and blah, 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 I just thought Kiefer Sutherland would have been the perfect Snake. It's too late now, and, time has passed Kiefer by. So I understand. I understand the casting of Oscar Isaac. Like visually, he's very much like your big boss, bearded type of Solid Snake, or Naked Snake, or whatever you want to call him. But I don't think I've actually seen much of Mr. Isaac's work. Like I haven't seen any of the new Star Wars films. Like what would you, if you were to point to a film and say this is either the closest he's played to Solid Snake, or his finest work where he's stretched as an actor, like what would you say would be the film for Oscar Isaac?
It's tricky. I mean, like I guess, I mean technically in terms of like the military kind of stuff, your kind of Triple Frontier is closer,
right?
He's always played too nice. Like I actually quite like him as the villain in Russell Crowe's Robin Hood film.
Oh, is he? All right.
Like he's a bit of a scenery chewer, and that in that film, that to me feels quite true. Like I think if you're going to be true to the spirit of Metal Gear, I think you have to have people who are quite game. Like I don't think you can play it entirely seriously. I think that there has to be some sort of like, it's a fundamentally daft thing, and if you're trying to go for the tone of the games, I think you have to go with it. If anything, I could see Oscar Isaac more as a sort of villain in a Metal Gear rather than Snake. I mean, in terms of the actual things he's done, though, it's quite hard to. He's sort of dashing, which Snake isn't.
Yeah.
Like he's
gruff.
I tell you who I always thought would be a good Snake, just physically, is the chap who plays Jaime Lannister in Game of Thrones.
Yes. Yeah.
Like that guy he's got like snake face.
He does have snake. I've always said that about him. Yeah. Very snaky face.
It's quite a tricky role to play really, because obviously he talks a lot in the VO and the codec conversations in the game, but I'd say a lot of the character in those games is kind of around Snake. So, you need someone who just kind of there and sort of deals with things and absorbs it.
And asks questions. Just questions everything, whatever the character says. So Oscar Isaac has to be very good at the end of sentences going up. Just constantly whatever the other person says. But like...
The lolly lele low.
The shaggy lord. But I suppose we're talking about this film, and we know nothing about it, I suppose. Like, because even I'm mentioning Big Boss, I suppose. Like, it says he's going to be Solid Snake. Jordan Vogt-Roberts has mentioned he wants to be true to the game. Like, is this an original story, do you think? Is this the first, is this the original Metal Gear Solid, but as a film? Where is this placed within the timeline? Is it a...
Yeah, I think you have to go, not necessarily think about the series timeline, but as I think it would be a big mistake to make something which is meant to complement the existing story. I would say, fundamentally, Metal Gears, definitely 1 through 3, are all kind of got the makings of quite good action thrillers. It's Snake going to a place with something in mind. He infiltrates a base, an oil rig, a jungle. Okay, that one's big. But I would say more that kind of thing. I know, like Metal Gear Solid 1. Like if you were going to take a plot of a thing and try and move it in, feels like the best fit just because it's simpler. It has quite a fix. They've kidnapped this guy. You've got to go in. You've got to do this. You've got to sort it out. It's a relatively confined kind of location. So maybe, I guess a direct adaptation of it rather than a we're going to take these characters and come up with like, here's an adventure that you never saw or whatever. I don't know if that would mean a lot to people. Well,
like the director clearly has like a reverence for the game and for Kojima's work. So like, perhaps it is taking a pre-existing game and, placing people in the roles. But using that knowledge then, Matthew, who would you see playing Revolver Ocelot, Vulcan Raven, Decoy Octopus? You know what? They could actually do the first game and just say, in the role of Decoy Octopus, fucking, they could just say the biggest, whatever, Laurence Olivier. And the good thing is, they never have to see Decoy Octopus because it's the DARPA chief. Spoilers. But yes, who would you place in those roles then?
Revolver. I think Revolver Ocelot's the key one because he's, such a kind of classic. I'd say if he's my favorite Metal Gear character, and the most just a human rather than some mad kind of anime sketch.
I mean, he does have a human being in his arm.
Not if you do Metal Gear Solid 1.
No, he's just a very good gunslinger in this game.
Yeah,
like visually, I think. I mean, he's gone to his eternal resting place now. Like, and he'd obviously be too old. But I always thought a couple of years ago, Sean Connery. But
really,
but purely visually, obviously not now. What's his chops from Succession? Brian Cox as Revolver Ocelot.
Revolver Ocelot's like tall and lean.
You could stick him in a corset. You're done. I think he'd be very good.
I was thinking more like, he's also dead and a bit obscure, but like sort of Sam Shepard or
okay.
You're kind of like wait a sec. I'm sorry for those listening. I have to look up a picture of Revolver Ocelot in Metal Gear.
He's long grey hair. Bill Bailey could be Revolver Ocelot. He's after losing a bit of weight on Strictly.
He's very tall and thin. He's not like, no, Brian Cox. If Brian Cox turned up in that coat, he's short. Or he's not tall and thin.
All right, okay, Revolver Ocelot might be the wrong. Okay, pick someone else then. Who plays Liquid Snake? Jude Law. Who plays
Jude Law.
Who plays Liquid Snake?
Doesn't he have the same face as Solid Snake? They're clones.
They are clones. Les Enfants Terribles.
So shouldn't he also be Oscar Isaacs?
Yeah, you're right. Actually,
does he look different in the game? I can't really remember. It's on PlayStation. They all look like
origami
men.
They're all just square heads, and yeah, they move like that. That's actually a fair point. I suppose he would be Oscar Isaac with blonde hair. Really,
it's actually very, very difficult to think of like the right kind of actor for Revolver Ocelot. He's tall and thin. Richard E. Grant.
Well, he wasn't he nominated for an Oscar for that one with what's her name? Can't think of it. But that one from last year or a couple of years ago.
Oh, who's that guy who was did you see A Star Is Born?
I didn't, but I know Bradley Cooper.
Not Bradley Cooper. He's got like an
Chris Christopherson.
No, not Chris Christopherson. It's his like Sam Elliott. You know Sam Elliott?
Yeah.
I mean, Sam Elliott is basically Revolver Ocelot in Metal Gear Solid 1. If you look him up, you'd be like, oh shit, that's him.
Right. Tick. That's
more
that
so than Brian Cox.
What about, we won't go through the entire cast, but I'll give you another kind of a biggie, I suppose, to the story. What about, say, let's do two more biggies. What about Meryl? Who could you see in the Meryl role?
What colour hair does she have? I know that you can do wigs. What about what's her chops? Who is Lois Lane?
Hold on, Lois Lane, Terry Hatcher.
No.
Well, are you thinking of Mary Kate, Kirsten Dunst?
No. I was thinking of Amy Adams. That's not right. That's not right for her.
See, this casting thing, it's harder than it looks.
It is hard. I tell you, like, actually, when you see Meryl and all the kind of, like...
The army gear.
Everything. I thought who was quite kind of convincing in that was in that Tom Cruise one where he had to keep reliving the day over. What's her face?
Penelope Cruz.
No, the one where he was in the alien war and he kept dying. That Live Die, the day Edge of Tomorrow.
I don't know that one, or I haven't seen it anyway.
You've not seen the one where Tom Cruise is in an alien war and it's like Groundhog Day. He keeps getting killed by an alien.
No.
It's not Vanilla Sky. That's very different. Oh, it had... I'm normally good with that. Emily Blunt was very good in the military role in that. If you look up Emily Blunt in
I think
Edge of Tomorrow.
That's all right, actually. That's not a bad bit of casting. Emily Blunt is...
She was pretty fierce in it.
Again, you know, in 2020, we have wigs. So it's all right. She can have red hair. That's all right. And I'll give you one more, Matthew. Otacon, who is obviously pivotal to... If we're going to franchise the Metal Gear movie series, then the Otacon has to be good because they're going to be popping up quite a bit. So who's your thin, nerdy... Ben Whishaw? Ben Whishaw?
He's a bit too English.
Again, people can do accents. We can have wigs and accents.
I'm not very imaginative when it comes to actors. Like Hugh Laurie.
Yeah.
This is the worst film ever. Everyone's like, remember when they made Metal Gear and Hugh Laurie was Otacon and Brian Cox was a Rob Ocelot?
Oh, I'd like to see it. But yeah, have you, but finally on the Metal Gear Solid film, have you hope that Metal Gear Solid, I suppose this could be a good film? Like, because many people, many detractors, Matthew, many wrong people, we like to say on the Weekspot, say that, but Metal Gear Solid is just a film as it is. Like, I think if you know, the story is tailor-made. Like, I would say either the first one, if you're just going to do a one-off, the first one, or Snake Eater, because Snake Eater's just kind of an aggressive Bond, basically.
Yeah.
So, like, do you have hope for this, or do you think it'll turn out like most video game movies?
I imagine it's hard to say. The guy, like, I've only seen he did that Kong Skull Island. Yeah,
I liked that. I thought that was good. I thought it was enjoyable.
Bit silly, wasn't it?
Well, I suppose, as we all know, Metal Gear Solid, very po-faced, quite serious material.
I imagine it'll be good at the old giant mech stuff. Based on that. Yeah, I think if you try and kind of keep to the spirit of the thing, I think the problem, I'm always a little apprehensive when like a mega fan gets their hands on something, because they come at it a bit skew-if and they don't necessarily have the distance. I think some of the best things have been made when people are a bit cooler on something or aren't as emotionally invested, because they don't feel a need to kind of like
fill it with fan service.
Tick all these nerdy boxes. Like, it has to function as a film first, which a lot of video game adaptations don't, because they're so busy going like, look, it's this thing or it's that thing. Or
100%. Oh, look, it's the first you're watching Doom and it's in first person now. And it's like, yeah. But is the film good? So yes,
but
I agree.
Like, it's got a good chance because it is a thriller fundamentally, which is a better, genre fit for a film than a lot of games, which are just sort of slightly shapeless action things. Yeah, it can't be. I mean, it really a low bar, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, it is. I mean, Resident Evil are your money spinners, but like there have been very few good video game films.
I actually quite like the Silent Hill film.
I remember I went to the cinema to watch that, I'm sure. The first Silent Hill. Yeah, I thought that was all right as well.
I thought that was okay.
So fingers crossed, the Metal Gear Solid film will be okay. But Matthew, one worry that some video game fans have is that the next Dragon Age won't be okay, because there have been some high-level departures at BioWare over the last couple of days. These are the two departures. Casey Hudson and Mark Dara. So Casey Hudson, was, well, I suppose that's different. He's more associated with Mass Effect, but he was the project director for Mass Effect before he became BioWare's studio general. And first of all, looking at Hudson, he said, when this was announced, he said, quote, "Arriving at this point has been an opportunity for me to reflect on my own future. And 2020 has been a year that forced all of us to reimagine how we think about work and life. For me, it's been the realization that I still have tremendous energy to create, but also that I need to try something different. I'm not sure exactly what that is yet, but I know that I want to start by rediscovering my creative passion through more personal work." Mark Dara, then, who is an executive producer at BioWare and known for his work on the Dragon Age series, he wrote a little goodbye as well, and he did mention that. Of course, like he mentioned that Dragon Age is, quote, "in good hands under a new executive called Daly, who I think Christian Daly, who was a fullback for Scotland. I think this is a different one. I think this is a different one. Yes. Then after this news, it did feel a little bit like Damage Control from BioWare that. They mentioned they'll be showing off or have something Dragon Age flavored to show off at this week's Game Awards. So, we'll see what comes of that. Probably talk about that on next week's show. But Matthew, you and I are more Mass Effect fans rather than Dragon Age. So would Casey Hudson's departure, when they've just announced Mass Effect 4 / Mass Effect whatever it'll be, Andromeda 2, whatever, does his departure worry you a little bit? Have any concern at all?
He'd left before, right?
He did. He left previously to join Microsoft.
I thought he didn't have masses to do necessarily with Andromeda. Like, certainly when they were talking Andromeda, he wasn't like front and center.
I wasn't. I believe Andromeda was the time when, I think that was when he was Microsoft, when he was at Microsoft. But still, a prominent figure at like BioWare, when they announced Mass Effect, we're talking about this superstar team, like, like we're going to make the Mass Effect that you want, which led me to believe that somebody like a Casey Hudson would be somewhat involved.
I don't know. It's a little bit like boiling everything down to a single person, which is a bad habit we have of, isn't it? These are big, complicated things. With a lot of games, we only know what they tell us in terms of who's actually involved. And, it turns out once you actually get the game and you look in the credits, there's, these things tend to have a kind of pedigree way beyond the one or two names I'm not too worried about it. Like, Andromeda I thought was a bit off. I didn't think that was for like a lack of Casey Hudson necessarily. They took it in a different direction. We've talked about this before, and they're still trying to work it out. There's life in it yet. I don't know. I'm just not a big believer like one person can shape that. When you've got like as long as you've got like a studio culture which has allowed these games in the past to be born, and that hasn't changed too radically. And they both say the people kind of stepping in, all the people who remain, have been involved with the respective series for as long as, and also we don't know where they're at in development, but someone being there to kind of set something in motion, whether you've locked it in place, locked the direction of it in place. I mean, I'd say Dragon Age feels, compared to Mass Effect, like in a slightly more secure place, because Inquisition was arguably their last really good game.
At BioWare's,
BioWare,
yeah.
So like it's almost like theirs to sort of mess up rather than it needs help. Mass Effect, you wonder if turmoil is what something like that needs, but. Again, I whenever these things are announced, like it was recently, there was the thing with the people who left 343 on Halo, and then you see them say, you see Phil Spencer saying, whether or not this is completely true, who knows? But he says, "Oh well, actually, this person was due to leave," and it coincides with this, and it's very easy to build the narrative and say this person's leaving because the game's some kind of huge failure in some kind of regard. But there's a lot of like internal things that we were not privy to, and I think it's a bit too easy for us just to look at the studio comings and goings.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Oh, it's this or it's that, and
like of course, yeah. There are other factors at play.
And it's, I don't know, it also like, it disrespects the people who remain to say that it'll be lesser or better or whatever. But, I'm increasingly ignoring these, I know it doesn't help the weak spot, but I'm increasingly ignoring these stories and just, waiting till we actually see the game, which hopefully we'll see at the Game Awards. And then once you've seen something moving, then you can have a better idea of like, oh yeah, that looks...
I mean, fingers crossed. Like the only thing about Dragon Age more so than Mass Effect is that the Dragon Age 4 or whatever it will be called has definitely been through some turmoil when it comes to its development. Like we've that was the one. Was that codename Joplin or was that Anthem? I can't remember off the top. No, Anthem was Dylan. I think the Dragon Age was Joplin, wasn't it? And that has been like apparently gone through like a couple of different reworks at the studio. And it's, by the sounds of it, the fourth Dragon Age has been in development for a while. But yeah, look, I don't know. We'll see. At the Game Awards, we may get a better look at it. Hopefully it won't just be another like 12-second teaser like we got at the very last Game Awards. And Matthew, what's that coming up? It's a right angle. Terrific. It is time for Tech Corner.
Does it have to be time for Tech Corner?
Believe you me, Matthew, the people cry out for our opinions on all things technology. And this week, with a big story in the tech world, was the launch of the Nvidia RTX 3060 Ti. This was announced on the Tuesday, and when reviews went live, and then it was to go on sale the following day at 2 p.m. And people, obviously enough, were very excited about this because Nvidia had, was it Nvidia or a retailer? Somebody mentioned that the stock for the 3060 Ti dwarfed the 3070, 80, 90. There were so many 3060 Ti's. Everyone who wanted one was going to get one. And let me tell you, Matthew, the one boy that wanted one didn't fucking get one, because I was there. I was there at 2 o'clock. I was reloading all these websites, Matthew, F5ing the living shite out of every last one of them. And one website, I got it in the basket. I said, oh, yes, I have it. This is going to be amazing. Clicked all the pictures where it said, is this a motorbike? And I was like, trust me, I'm pretty aware that this is a motorbike. Got through, gave them my address, gave them the money. And then at the very end, they said, sorry, we don't have a card for you, but we'll take your money. I was like, whoa, hang on a second here. You're not allowed to do that. This has since been resolved, thankfully. But a little bit worried there for a second when I thought it was going to be down 450 quid. That would have been very nice. But
a roller coaster ride, this story.
In all seriousness, sort this out. Well, I was going to say sort it out. Nvidia, it does seem, it's just a big problem. The scalping situation and having all of the bots, these people with the bots, and I don't know, it's technology I don't understand. Being able to snap up all of these graphics cards as soon as they go on sale. It's just really, it's frustrating because then the market price just inflates, and people who actually just want a fucking graphics card are left with nothing. Yeah. And if they want to buy one, then they're forced to pay over the odds, which is very upsetting. Which is why, Matthew, my question to you is, have you ever had to pay over the odds for something that you just really, really wanted and couldn't live without?
No. Sorry, not a very interesting answer. In fact, the worst possible answer to this question. I haven't. I'm quite on top of when I want something. I pre-order and get ready and prep for it. Also, there's a lot. I don't know. I don't really go in for a lot of stuff that people want. The stuff that I like is shit that no one else wants.
So there's an overabundance of it, and you have
take or pick. I know it'd be different. I imagine life would be very sad if you were into is it trainers? Isn't that the thing everyone wants and can never get?
It's one of, yeah.
I see the most moaning I see about scalping on Twitter is about terrible looking trainers.
People do like trainers, I suppose. So not a fan of footwear is what you're saying.
Well, just get my school shoes from Clark's.
Stand on the machine. Do you remember standing on the machine that would engulf your shoe?
Terrifying, yeah.
Genuinely scared me to death.
You want to put your foot in this thing that resembles a trash compactor, and you're like, not really. I mean, it's a very soft and brittle part of my body.
Horrible experience.
I'm just I literally for the last 4 or 5 years, have just replaced my pair of shoes with the same shoe. I just go in, say this size. That's how shoes should be. Just never ever changing style.
Excellent.
So you look at my feet and you're like, oh, this is Matthew. He's wearing those shoes. I recognise it. That's how if there was a kind of invasion of the body snatchers type scenario, you'd be able to tell my double because they'd be wearing some other shoes.
Show and tell. We can't afford a proper jingle. It's meant to be jingle.
Yes, Show and Tell is the part of the PC Gaming Weekspot where we discuss the video games that we've been playing over the past 7 days. Matthew Castle, look at me. Look into the mirror. What do you see? Is it a twin? Perhaps it is. I've been playing Twin Mirror. Matthew, this is the latest game from Don't Nod Entertainment, who are best known as the developer behind Life is Strange. Most recently, Tell Me Why, which you spoke about on this very podcast. And in Twin Mirror, you play a former journalist that returns to their West Virginian home of Basswood is the name of it. And you return because... So yeah, it's been a long absence since you've been there. You returned, but you returned because your best friend has died and you're going back for their funeral. Spoilers, it happens in the first 4 minutes. It's fine.
What a bummer.
But all goes haywire after the wake of the funeral. The morning after, when you wake up, you realize that your shirt is soaked in blood. Oh no! Have you murdered someone? It's time to play investigative reporter / detective with a mind palace. So how this works is it's very similar to Life is Strange. You in the game, you're transported to different areas in the town, playing as this former journalist, Sam Higgs. Depending on what the story is, that's where you're going to be in the game. And then you're tasked with chatting to the townsfolk and getting to the bottom of what exactly is going on. The reason, I suppose you should say, a lot of these people are quite salty towards you, and that is because the reason you left Basswood is you wrote an article that essentially destroyed the miners in the town, and the economy has just... It's been just decimated. So people aren't fond of you. Understandable, I suppose. But the thing is, Matthew, I don't really like the people in Basswood either, because the game...
So you're glad their business has collapsed?
Yes, indeed I am. But they don't really give me a reason to care about them or the decisions I make the decisions that are put towards me, the decisions I have to make, they don't really matter because I don't care about these people. I don't dread pissing off any of the characters. And there are a number of reasons, I suppose. One, the game is 6 hours long and it uses its runtime exceptionally poorly. It is unbelievably slow at the beginning, and then when it feels like it's starting to build, you realize you're about a half an hour away from the end. 2, the acting, as is mostly the case for Don't Nods games. People may disagree, but they're mostly wrong. The acting is wooden. Like, it is... it's fucking pretty bad. It is pretty bad. So yeah, I just don't really care what's happening to these characters. And 3, I suppose, because these things are mostly in 3s, aren't they? It's just that the townsfolk aren't very interesting. They're all, on top of being very wooden, they're all very one note, very one dimensional. The characters that are very much "they took our jobs" are just that. The characters that are, homely and nice are just lovely and nice. Like, everyone is just, there is no meat to these characters whatsoever. Yes, Matthew.
Why is the town all like made of crystals and shit? What's all this about?
So the other aspect of this game is, on top of chatting to people, is that, as I said, you are this investigative reporter, detective man. So on top of chatting to folks, there is also your mind palace. And your mind palace is where you see all of these crystallized environments, because that's where you go to solve the mysteries that you need to solve. So what this involves is you walk around a scene, analysing what happened at this location, or what could happen if you choose to perform a particular set of actions in a specific order. So, one of them is where there's been a car accident and you see... like on the police report, it says the car accident happened in this particular way. So then if you set the scene for those police, the way it's been ordered in the police report, you see, well, according to my mind palace, it couldn't have happened this way. So then you have to like reorganize it or whatever. Or there's the other way I said, where something hasn't happened yet and you can like envision what would happen if you were to perform actions in a specific order. But the very first time I did one of these, I was actually quite impressed, because it seemed like the game was allowing me to fail. When I completed the sequence, putting together what I believed was the order of events, the game didn't question me once. It just carried on. And I suppose I was sort of expecting something where the game was going to say, all right, either the game was going to say, are you sure about this? Or that the game was going to allow me to actually fail, because if you look at something like A Life is Strange, you can miss particular things. You can get certain aspects of conversations, quote unquote, wrong. All of that. So I was going, this is quite interesting. Then I realized I was completely wrong, and I just got the first sequence of events right the first time, because I messed up the next one and the game wouldn't let me continue until I got it right. Which is, I suppose, this isn't like Life is Strange in that it does have a few different endings, but it isn't the same like Life is Strange, or Walking Dead, and et cetera, your modern adventure game where you can influence the story by choosing your dialogue options or choosing whatever dialogue options you want. Like, you do need to get the puzzle right, Right. And I think often it doesn't allow you to be that investigative reporter / detective man. It's because, you could put a plausible sequence of events together and the game will go, no, I don't think that's it. I think it might be something. Maybe, do you want to have another look? It might be something else.
Yeah, I feel like there's like a new generation of detective games we're getting now, which do provide for that and are, a bit more adaptable. Like there's some, things like the more recent Sherlock Holmes games or Sinking City, I think let you kind of piece together something, and as long as it works, that can become your version. And then, whether you got it correct may have implications in the story. But this sort of, I don't know, it's becoming a bit of a don't nod thing, really. Like slightly messy investigation games, because that's sort of what Tell Me Why or Don't Tell Me or What's Happening. What's that game called?
Tell me why.
It was called. it's sort of similar. You go back and you're investigating some mystery, within your hometown, and there's a bit of that in Life is Strange 1, where you're kind of investigating. You have to do a bit of investigating to piece together who's been naughty in the town or whatever. I worry that they're suffering a little bit from the kind of what happened with Telltale, where you make The Walking Dead, which is so successful and so refreshing and popular, that you then go, well, we'll make this 15 times. And, occasionally you get it right if the setting's right, or the characters, or you can put a twist on it. Telltale made other things other than The Walking Dead that were good, but they also made a lot of not very good Telltale games.
Yeah.
And I worry that Don't-Nod's a bit like that, but with Life is Strange. They're just endlessly trying to remake Life is Strange.
Well, it was a couple of weeks ago we were on here talking about, there was a news story where Don't-Nod, the CEO or somebody mentioned that we have, whatever it was, 5 or 6 games in development. And yeah, that's... I
wish they'd make more like Vampire. What I liked about Vampire was it took their sort of story stuff, but sort of embedded it into, kind of an action RPG type setting. And it just, I don't know, it all kind of came together and felt a bit more alive because of it. When you take away other genre trappings and it's just this walk around talking to characters thing, I just don't find it very engaging. Like, I like Life is Strange, but I don't think it's like the be all and end all.
No, it's not. Life is Strange is very overrated. But I suppose the one character in this, or the one point of slight interest when it comes to the conversations that you have with characters in this game, is something that they don't even really go for. So it's called Twin Mirror. One reason, I suppose, or maybe the main reason, is that you have an imaginary friend that you can talk to, nobody else sees. Like, you could be having a conversation with somebody else and this imaginary friend will show up, and it's almost like time stands still and you're able to have a full-blown conversation with them. So, it's your inside voice. And it's implied, they never really explore this, but it is implied that this main character either is on the autistic spectrum. And, it's not something that is explored quite often in video games, and maybe would be if it was dealt correctly and so on and so forth. It would be something interesting. But they don't really go into that. And it feels like it's just left hanging, which is a lot. It's like, this got ravaged in the preview circuit because I think the sequence that people played was the bit in the hotel, and it's just, it's a bit silly. I don't think it's actually as bad as people anticipated it was going to be. But there are definitely unintentionally funny bits. Like, there's a bit in your Mind Palace where people on the video version will have seen it, where you're running through this darkened, crystallized area, and there are a load of mirrors there that show up, and it says like, danger, bad news, blah, blah, blah. It's just a bit comical and a bit silly. There's a few bits like that. But like you, I can very much see Don't-Nod going down the kind of Telltale route of just having so much on their plate that it stretches them thin, and people sort of lose interest. Whereas Vampire, whilst I didn't play it, I know people, I don't think it blew anyone away, but it was quite interesting and something a bit different from the studio. So, I don't know. It's Twin Mirror. It's all right. Although I must say, the more I played of it, the more I disliked it. So, yeah. Matthew, you have been playing a different video game. One, far fewer conversations in this one. More just out and out combat, I suppose. You've been playing Unto the End.
I have.
So it's something we have discussed, I think, only last week on this. But yeah, what is Unto the End for those that aren't aware?
It's sort of a 2D sort of adventure game, action adventure game, where you are playing this sort of large. I keep calling him a barbarian, but I don't think he is a barbarian. He's just like a warrior, like a big, he's the father of this family. He's quite capable with a sword, and he's journeying. What he's journeying to, I couldn't tell you. I haven't finished this yet. But it's all sort of told without words. It's quite an atmospheric kind of journey game. I mean, it has elements of like a Limbo or Inside, in that they also, just sort of drop you in the world and then you sort of figure it out by interacting with it and moving through it. Like those games, it's also fond of quite instant deaths. I wouldn't say unforeseeable. I don't think the game is necessarily like a gotcha game, which I think some of these have been in the past. I think Inside and Limbo both have elements of that. Like, definitely,
I think Limbo is very much trial and error.
Yeah, it is trial and error, but I don't. It's not as gleeful in terms of like, you'll see the deaths are quite kind of sort of sudden and sort of thumpy, rather than I feel some of the death animations in Limbo and Inside are a bit more. They take a bit more glee in it. Here you're going to see me dying a lot on a spike trap. For those watching rather than listening. Yeah, but it also has this, so there's this element of exploration and sort of like teasing out the world, working out like what you're meant to be doing, how you're meant to do it, kind of just getting a feel for the controls. It's got this very like moody atmosphere where it doesn't really explain a lot, and it's very sort of quiet, and you can hear your breathing, and the music's quite kind of sort of minimalist. It's sort of quite bleak and not unpleasantly so, but it feels like quite a lonely game, and you're in this little pocket of light around your torch. But then it also has this sort of like pretty thorough combat controls, where it hinges on a kind of high-low stance for blocking and then a high-low attack. But there are other things. There are like feints, there are shoulder barges, and the fights feel quite fast and furious, and like it's not a hack and slash game at all. They're more like little puzzle dances as you're trying to kind of often get rid of one person quite quickly so you can focus on the other one. Again, you die very quickly. The checkpoints are quite nearby. But what I like about the fights is that they play out very differently every time. It feels like a Scrabble for survival, even though it's got this very minimalist style. I think it actually captures that, about as well as I've seen in the game. Often combat systems are like parts of power fantasies. They're about just absolutely whomping someone and looking cool as you do it. Here, it really feels like a 10 seconds that are going to decide whether you kind of live or die. Limbo and Inside didn't have combat systems. They were just sort of puzzle platformers, and I think it's that here that really kind of separates it from those games. I really like the combat. It just feels very fast and violent, even though again it's got this sort of like animated style. So it's not like full of like detail. There's detail in it, but it's more like the broad shape of it.
On the topic of the combat, you mentioned that they're like these 10-second Scrabbles for survival, but with the complex or more complex type of combat system, like, does each enemy have a set number of actions that they can do for you? Like, are there tells, or is it a bit random?
Yeah, there are. So they've often talked about. I've met the developers a few times, husband and wife team, Steve and Sarah, and they. Steven's a big fan of like Punch Out, and often talks about Punch Out, the old Nintendo arcade boxing game, which was very like when something has a tell, you could sort of get a strike in early. And so, yeah, they are. I mean, the high-low thing is quite clear. There's a, I guess your like basic route to success is just mirroring their glancing off high and low blows to stumble them and then hit them with a riposte, and that's fine. But you can also like shoulder barge them to the floor to earn a bit of time, and you can do these feints to kind of screw with their heads and try and stab them. If they go high, you try and stab them under and stuff. And there are other elements that aren't random, but like if you get barged, you can drop your sword, so you have to pick up your sword. So then, it becomes a bit of a scrabble just for your weapon. Or if you throw your dagger, you then, and it misses, you have to go and retrieve it. It's a very like practically minded game. It doesn't have a lot of like video game convention in it in terms of, you haven't, you can drop your sword. You can lose your sword. You can carry on without your sword and then have to go back and get it. And you can lose your dagger and you can really put yourself at a disadvantage. And I don't know, it just feels like you're kind of not muddling through it, but you're trying to work out the rules of this world, of this game, work out how to kind of keep yourself alive in it. And it's genuinely really unique. And when the combat, when you get it, get through an encounter, it feels really like meaty and powerful. Like just considering that you're dealing with these very small figures on screen, like there is a real heft to it. And then you get crushed by a rock like that straight after. It does have a little bit of gotchiness to it, I guess. But yeah, it just feels, it's not like I'm going to play it on a massive TV in the living room in like broad daylight and hey, everyone gather around, watch this, look at this cool thing. But it's I think a good game for like long winter evenings. It's a very moody, kind of has a bit of the energy of, do you remember Below?
Yes. Capybara.
Which was similarly kind of like quite obscure and didn't really explain itself. And there, quite a lot of people bumped off it. Here, I think there's a bit less going on. It's a bit easier to understand because it's like 2D and the sort of setup of it, the platforming, you get a basic feel for how that works. But it's got a similar kind of like mystery vibe to it. I think it's great. I've liked this since I first saw it at previous stage, and it's come together really nicely. I think it's incredibly atmospheric. I think it's got a real unique rhythm to it. I don't really have a feel for how big it is because my progress is slow because I die a lot at crunch. And but I'm looking forward to kind of sticking through it and working my way through it and see if I can survive and make it onto the end.
Very good. The challenge, do you think it's balanced well? Like I know, like you say, the combat sequences against the enemies and all that, like you've spoken about the Scrabbles and whatever else, but like did you ever find it unfair, or do you always think that like if you die it's more often than not your fault, like apart from when the rock falls?
It's always your fault, but like I think the thing is it doesn't feel, in some trial and error games you're trying to find the kind of the exact combination of moves to like win. It's you go in and you repeat the first 5 steps of the encounter again and again, and then it's what you do differently on the 6th step. Yeah. Here it feels like there's a bit more improvisation. Like sometimes they miss the knife. Do you then roll back and try and get them in the battle? Or do you how do you kind of deal with those situations and get on top of them? That's kind of the energy of this game. The combat feels quite alive, considering a lot of the world is quite prescribed in terms of like traps and things kind of dropping on you and whatnot. There's definitely like room for not interpretation's the wrong word,
experimentation.
Experimentation or expressing yourself in the combat. It's fun. It's fun and meaty. Like things can, they can lob spears at you and then you'll roll under it and the spear will thunk into their mate. And it doesn't feel like a scripted moment, but it looks really cool. It's the kind of thing that would be a scripted moment in another game.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's really neat. It's on Game Pass, so people should try it on Game Pass when it comes out on the 9th, I think, tomorrow.
Excellent.
So yeah, don't let this one get like overshadowed by your cyberpunk and whatnot. It's a really distinctive, interesting thing that I am enjoying.
It does. It sounds a bit different. I will indeed be checking it out. And if it's on Game Pass, terrific. Another video game that I've been playing that is a little bit different, is El Hijo, or El Hijo, a Wild West tale, which is a sort of a wholesome hitman, kind of. It is a non-violent stealth game with this spaghetti western feel, where you play as a 6-year-old boy that has been separated from his mother, and your main aim throughout the game is to reunite with your mother. But in order to do that, you need to sneak past a load of different guards, because if they catch you, that's it. There's no shootout, no nothing. It is non-violent. So once they get their hands on you, you're done. You'll reload at the most recent checkpoint. It's not that unfair or anything like that. But it is from this isometric viewpoint where you use your environment to block the line of sight of your enemies, be that crouching by beds, boxes, little waist-high walls outside, etc., etc., which actually feels a little bit better than, say, something like a Metal Gear Solid or a Hitman or whatever, because this is a 6-year-old boy, so I'd believe that he is a little bit smaller, so he, it's a little bit more believable that the guards wouldn't see the 6-year-old boy crouching by some environments.
Guards, these look like monks.
Yeah, well, the guards come in all shapes and sizes. There are monks, there are cops, there are bandits, and there are story reasons for all of this. Like, it's a fairly bare bones story, but yeah. But the guard, like, if the guards see you, like I mentioned that it's game over if they catch you, but it's not if they see you, because they have very bad eyesight, particularly in areas where it's completely shadowy. You know, if you're seen, you can just run in there and you're all right. But that's basically how you get around. Now, annoyingly, you're not always aware of where your enemies are or where they're looking. Like, there's no map, no no Metal Gear Solid map with like little blips or cones of vision or anything like that. There is, however, instead of a map, you can hold down a button and you'll be able to see their vision cones. You'll be able to see, there'll also be little there'll be something to basically show where their line of sight is being blocked, or if they can see above a height or below a height or whatever it is, right? And that's fine, but it is frustrating because when you hold down this button, the result of this seeing their line of sight, it's not instant. So it actually takes it definitely takes too long. Basically, because I think it should be instant and either be on a cooldown or whatever, but it just takes way too long. Like, it's not like the game moves at breakneck speed or anything like that.
Yeah, it looks pretty gentle from this. Nice, but gentle.
But there is still a frustration because there will be points where you do need to you do need to be able to see where the guards can see quite quickly. Now, there are little toys you have at your disposal to help you get around that are actual toys, because you're a 6-year-old.
Right. Of course.
As fun as it would be, to have fucking, what's it called, garrote wire or whatever.
That'd be a very different game.
So you have wind-up toy soldiers that'll grab the attention of guards, sort of like the magazines in Metal Gear Solid, but again, more wholesome. You have smoke. You have smoke bombs that are sort of Assassin's Creed-y. There are bottle rockets that can disorientate the guards, which you just lob them into their faces, which, maybe that's not quite as wholesome, your fireworks in the face, but, still, it's not silenced pistols. And you have your slingshot that you can use to distract guards and break ceramic pots and all that. And it's a really lovely, playful way to give you, stealth-like toys, stealth-like little gadgets. It's very apt, obviously. And this harkens back to what we were discussing. Was that that was last week? Yeah, when we were talking about Immortals and how, whatever, Immortals, some people like it, some people don't. whatever. But the one thing that I said about Immortals was that I just like the idea of playing a game that isn't going to talk down to me like I'm a child, but is going to be a little bit more wholesome and a little bit more nice. And I feel like that's what I got from El Hijo. Like it's a stealth game, not about murdering a single target. It's just a little bit more pleasant, and you don't really get that an awful lot. People would say maybe Untitled Goose Game, but apart from that, they're a rarity more often than not. But there are issues with the toys as well, sadly. On more than one occasion, I needed to use a smoke bomb and to block the guards' line of sight and to get them to get away. But the input lag was just pretty horrendous, and I ended up being spotted. A more avoidable frustration than the map that I mentioned, I feel, if you want to go without the map, then so be it. But yes, it was just an annoyance. Hindered my enjoyment of the game. But still, in saying that, just a very pleasant stealth game, and one that we don't get an awful lot of. Your non-violent, very childlike, enjoyable sort of game like this. So, I definitely recommend it. It's good fun. Quite enjoyed it. El Hijo. So yeah, that is your lot for the games we've been playing over the last 7 days. So now to test the video game knowledge of one another. It's something we like to call Mystery Steam Reviews.
It's time for Mystery Steam Reviews. Yeah!
Yes, Mystery Steam Reviews is the part of the PC Gaming Weekspot where I, Colm Ahern, and he, Matthew Castle, test the knowledge of one another via Steam reviews that are a mystery. If you're new here, and there may be a couple of you new here this week, the rules are as follows. Both I and Matthew bring 3 Steam reviews to the MSR arena, but we omit the name of the game associated with each review. Our opponent must correctly guess the game attached to each review. 1 correct answer equals 1 point. While both combatants have 90 seconds on each MSR, we both also have help in the form of 3 lifelines, which can be used at any stage during a battle, and also pause the 90-second timer. Each lifeline can only be used once, and they are as follows. Question, where the hot seat haver gets to ask a yes or no question. Second opinion, where a second review is given to the warm chair sitter. And genre, where the genre of the game is revealed to the one with the warm arse. Now this week, Matthew Castle, we're going to change genre a little bit, just a little bit, because the theme for this week's Mystery Steam Reviews is Western RPGs, because of the moving and shaking at BioWare and the announcement that we may get to see a little bit of Dragon Age at the Game Awards. So instead of, because usually genre is the definition that's given to the game from wikipedia.org. So what we're going to do instead is use Steam tags. And I believe, have we decided upon 3 Steam tags? Is that
the first 3 Steam tags, right?
The first 3. Okay, we'll do. Well, I was just going to say 3 because sometimes one of the ones within the first 3 could be like, it's this game. So I would say 3 Steam tags of your choosing, as long as they're not, one of the tags is video game, perhaps. So that's all your housekeeping. So Matthew, would you like your very first Mystery Steam review?
Hit me up.
It's the most bugged and broken piece of absolute RPG masterpiece I ever played. Perhaps even more buggy than Fallout 2. Bugged, but still great. Just be sure you install the unofficial patch. And that's from the Jackie King. It's recommended, 35.7 hours on record, 35.7 hours at review time. And before I start the timer, Matthew, I do have to just inform you not to be alarmed, as I do have a little helper with me this week when it comes to Mystery Steam reviews, because we do have people just listening to this now as opposed to the visual element as well. You'll hear it. Your time starts now.
Okay. I'm a bit scared by what you just said. So this brings to mind Bugged and Broken. And Fallout makes me think Fallout New Vegas. But it's an absolute RPG masterpiece.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe or maybe it's
1 minute.
Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. What was that?
Ignore it, carry on.
Okay. Did I just hear somebody say 1 minute?
Yes, you did, yeah.
Oh my god. That's completely thrown me. New Vegas or 35 hours isn't very long for New Vegas. That doesn't sit right with me. Listen, I'm gonna say Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. Are you sure you have your 3 lifelines, Matthew? You can use them at any stage.
Yeah, because that's got a famous patch. We were doing it in our Let's Play. I think it's that.
Is that your final answer?
10.
That's my
9,
final answer.
8.
Oh my god, that is so irritating.
Yeah, do you know what? It is. I'm going to axe that straight away.
10, 9, 8.
I thought that would help. Instead, I will just give time updates. That is much better. Matthew, you, when getting this review, you carefully you considered the fact that this person mentioned it was quite buggy a number of times. And the Fallout mention made you think, is this Fallout New Vegas? And you said no. You said, this is Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. And I can tell you, Matthew, that Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines is the correct answer.
Oh, yes!
Well done.
Castle levels up.
Excellent work, Matthew.
I'm not saving my light. I've leveled up. Unfortunately, I put my points into bumbling stat and then smashed over my light, which was good.
I'm a little disappointed. Why did I put effort into making? I thought the woman would be, because for the people in the audio version, like, they have to be updated. They don't see a timer on screen. But yeah, what a waste.
I thought the woman would be welcome.
What a waste of time. I'm sorry, woman. Matthew, could I have my first Mystery Steam review, please?
Yeah. A poor man's Deus Ex. That's Argian. Recommended 1.1 hours on record.
Wow. Okay, time starts now. Poor man's Deus Ex. 1.1 hours on record. Now, what Deus Ex is Argion talking about? Is the question. Because if he's just talking about the original Deus Ex, then that leaves 20 years of games. Because often when people say a poor man's blank, the blank came out beforehand. Not always, but often.
Is that how a poor man's works?
That isn't always the case. Actually, yeah, I'm talking up my arse, aren't I? So I would say RPGs from a Deus Ex kind of slant. You're talking System Shock 2. I don't know, is that an RPG per se, but it has heavy RPG elements. Also, could this be a review for one of the Deus Ex sequels? It could be. Do you know what? I'm gonna take a chance. I'm gonna do quite poorly this week, I feel, Matthew, but that's okay. I'm gonna say System Shock 2.
And is that your final answer?
That is my final answer, Chris.
I mean, you talked us through your logic. The logic behind the phrase "a poor man's something" slightly baffling. Didn't really understand it. And you've come to System Shock 2. The correct answer is
Deus Ex: Human Revolution or Mankind Divided.
No, I sort of feel bad about this one. The correct answer is Alpha Protocol. I said,
Why do you feel
bad about
bad?
it. Well, when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, Alpha Protocol is like a poor man's Deus Ex. But then hearing you do the logic of it and talking it through, I was like, actually, that could be like, I don't know. That's a tough one.
It stings a little bit, I won't lie.
Yeah.
Stings just a tad.
The second clue for that one was a horrible, unrefined bug fest. But some of the RPG progression elements have yet to be implemented that well anywhere else. Try it with an open mind, which I thought may have put you in the place of like, it's like buggy, but like a bit of a cult favourite, which may have taken you to Alpha Protocol. The problem is all the other ones are like, it's a James Bond RPG, which is too obvious. That was hard. The other ones are easier than that.
Okay,
I don't know why I feel bad, but I do.
Well, thank you. I'm glad finally you're showing some remorse for your evil deeds. But Matthew, let's see what is behind door number 2. That's not what we do here. Your second mystery Steam review is as follows. It's just Fallout with swords. Why bother? And that's from RKDA. It's not recommended, with 27.9 hours on record and 16.5 hours at time of review. Matthew, your 90 seconds starts now. Isn't it interesting that they played for an extra 12? Anyway, sorry, this is your turn.
Why bother and then bothers for another 12 hours? It's just Fallout with swords. I mean, this would make you think Elder Scrolls, obviously, but it could literally be applied to any Elder Scrolls game. Fallout with swords. I don't think there's a post-apocalyptic game where you're running around with swords that I can think of. But then that just puts that this turns it into just like a complete guess at an Elder Scrolls game. Hit me up with my second clue.
Ooh, all right then. So we pause the timer there at 47 seconds. Matthew, your so what are you using? You're using your second opinion. So second opinion of this is it is stop right there, criminal scum. You haven't played game name, have you? Buy the game and play it now, or server your sentence. Your stolen goods are now forfeit. So yeah, that is your second opinion.
I mean, that just says yes. That's an Elder Scrolls game, but that doesn't help me. All that does is confirm it is an Elder Scrolls game, and I don't know Elder Scrolls well enough to know the generic lines of dialogue.
The timer, unless you want to give me, do you want to just give a guess, or would you like 47 extra seconds? We'll restart the timer.
I'm going to guess Elder Scrolls. Oblivion.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
So, you recognized or came to the conclusion that this was an Elder Scrolls game from the off, and after your second opinion, you've ended up on Elder Scrolls. Hold on, what did you say?
The Elder Scrolls Oblivion.
The Elder Scrolls Oblivion. So I can tell you, Matthew, that the Elder Scrolls Oblivion is the wrong answer.
Oh. Which one was it?
So I feel like in recent weeks, I have been trying. I don't know if you have been trying to be a bit nicer, but I have been trying to be a bit nicer and not if something is a complete edition or a definitive edition or whatever, if he just says the name of the game, I'll give it to him.
Yeah.
You've left me in a very tricky situation here, Matthew, because the correct answer is The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion.
Oh.
No.
I think I think you made the right call.
Okay. All right.
The number's part of the title. I wouldn't, if you'd said The Elder Scrolls Oblivion, I wouldn't have given it to you.
Well, we all know that, but like I just wanted to.
If you're trying to listen, if you're trying to sell yourself as like a better person or a more gracious competitor, then you'd fucking give me the point. You can't be like, oh, I can't give it to you, but like you definitely wouldn't have given it to me because you're a piece of shit. Like this is, that's you talking to me. You're scum and everyone knows it. I'm not scum, but I'm going to do this scummy thing.
So you're no,
we're both scum. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, all right. I'll take that. We are both scum, but
we're both scum.
Like if it's complete edition,
game about two pieces of shit trying to guess terrible Steam reviews.
So like a number is part of the title. Complete edition, complete edition.
I would maybe give wiggle room on like complete or special
definitive
edition,
special,
unless it's really like specific to it, and I felt the review gave you enough information to get that it was like Game of the Year edition. It's like, wow, I thought this was good the first time round, but this Game of the Year edition is amazing, and then you didn't say Game of the Year. I would say no.
Okay. Well, I'm glad the people like when we talk shop on air, I think. So they'll enjoy that. Matthew, could I have my second mystery Steam review, please?
One of the worst game launch of this era. That's from Get Yoshi Master. It's recommended. 104.9 hours on record. 0.5 at time of review. I like reviews like this because they tell a story.
Time starts now. Okay. Right. So again, we're talking about a very buggy game. I don't know what era this is. Well, when you're thinking about buggy RPGs, there's obviously the one, we've gone through a couple of them already. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, Fallout. Well, all every Bethesda game is pretty buggy at launch. But I think a lot of people give them leeway. Skyrim, was it especially buggy? I'm trying to remember. God, 9 years ago. Do you know what? I'm going to pause the timer. And Matthew, could I have my second opinion for this one, please? Because I think that's going to help me somewhat, hopefully.
This game reminds me a lot of No Man's Sky. The state that game name is in now is quite a fun game and worth a look.
That not at all. That is a horrible second opinion. You are scum.
Piece of shit.
Time restarts now.
Shit.
I don't know why, but Sea of Thieves is in my head. When it comes to No Man's Sky and that type of, but Sea of Thieves is not a Western RPG. If you picked Sea of Thieves, I would get cross. A Western RPG. I'm just gonna shoot with one of the Fallouts, I think, and
I got those other clues.
Okay, I'm gonna pause the timer again at 11 seconds. You've done me there, Matthew, haven't you? I'm gonna say, could I have my genre? Could I use my genre lifeline, please? Which would be 3 Steam tags of your choosing. Just don't be a bollocks.
Open world. Post-apocalyptic. Multiplayer.
Okay. Is that a Western RPG? Time restarts now at 11 seconds. So Fallout 76? It's not a Western, it are RPG elements, but multiplayer. I can't remember. Did Fallout 4? Fallout 4. Fallout 4!
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer, Chris, yes.
So, you knew it was a buggy game that was improved? You used your clue to identify that it was a multiplayer game, but did Fallout 4 have multiplayer elements?
I think so.
The correct answer is Fallout 76.
I think that's unfair. I think that
Why
is
is that unfair?
I think that is bullshit.
Why?
That's not a Western RPG. I think that is a multiplayer. That is more of an online multiplayer video game.
Oh, no way. Like, its second tag is RPG.
I think that's an RPG in the same way that FIFA's an RPG and you can put stats into the players. It's not, obviously. I'm being a little bit outlandish. But it's... look...
I ran that one past Catherine. I was like, do you think this counts as a Western RPG? And she was like, yes. So, if you want to call my wife a liar, you can. But, you know, that's a real mark against your character. I can get her.
I think calling Fallout 76 an RPG is a stretch. I think that is... But, look, we'll carry on, Matthew. You know, fine, I guess.
This is a very unpleasant Mystery Steam review.
Matthew, would you like your third and final Mystery Steam review?
Yes, I would.
It's got the best and worst parts of the Mass Effect series. And that's from Denis Villeneuve. It's recommended. 6.8 hours on record. 6.8 hours at time of review. Matthew, your time starts now.
Well, hit me out with my tags.
Oh, all right then.
The last one.
No, you've questioned as well, Matthew.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you're saying this is the last one.
You stop that fucking clock. I can see it going down.
Sorry, I didn't. The clock is paused at 1 minute and 16 seconds. What do you want?
The tags, genre tags.
Okay, so the 3 genre Steam tags for this game are Choices Matter, Single Player, and no, sorry, I'm going to take that one out. Choices Matter, Multiplayer, and Sci-Fi. And your timer restarts now.
But it was also single player. You said it was single player. Now you're saying it's multiplayer.
Maybe I'm actually nice and I'm being kind.
Stop the clock, ask a question.
Oh, all right then. Yes, what is your question, Matthew Castle?
Does this game have a...
I love stopping the clock and then going, let me think of a question.
All right.
No, ask the question, because the timer ran for a little bit afterwards anyway, so go on.
It's only about those 10 seconds that you stole. And you did steal them. It was... Is the multiplayer mode separate to the single player mode?
Okay, I am going to answer the question that you asked. But I am going to double check because, you know, we need to be sure, don't we? I'm 99.9% sure. Yes.
Okay. Well,
timer restarts now.
This is going to be a Mass Effect. The question is, if it has a multiplayer, which you've thrown in to you know, you thought you'd throw me off a bit, but actually it reminds me 2 of those games have multiplayer modes. Mass Effect 3 had a multiplayer mode, like a horde mode, as did Mass Effect Andromeda. The question is, which of them is? It's the best and worst. You know what? I don't think people talking about Mass Effect in that kind of sort of third-person way about a Mass Effect game sounds like there's a bit of distance. I'm thinking Mass Effect Andromeda for this one. It's the best and worst of Mass Effect.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
So, Matthew, you correctly deduced that this is a Mass Effect game. And after getting the Steam tags, you thought to yourself, there are 2 games in the Mass Effect series with multiplayer. So, indeed, that's why I gave you multiplayer. So it's being kind, being a little bit nicer than just saying single player. And you've ended up on Mass Effect Andromeda, realizing that maybe this review had a couple of years to process Andromeda and go, you know what? This game is alright. So I can tell you, Matthew, that Mass Effect Andromeda is the wrong answer. The correct answer is Mass Effect 3.
Fuck it. Right. Well, okay.
So, yeah.
It could have been either of those.
And it was. It was Mass Effect 3.
Basically a replay of the Fallout 4, Fallout 76 thing, except Fallout 4 was never multiplayer, so, that's on you.
Did it not have base building? It had, you built bases. I thought there was...
yourself.
I thought there was some... Was there definitely not some form of...
No.
Oh. All right, then. I'm not as cross about that anymore, then. Matthew...
You just got it totally wrong.
Matthew, could I have my third and final mystery Steam review, please?
Bald man frames old man who has amnesia, starting a wild goose chase with a lot of inconveniences in the middle of it. Recommended from Orange Ryu. 82.8 hours on record, 74.2 at the time of review.
90 seconds starts now. A bald man, famous bald men in video games. Agent 47, Max Payne in 3. A bald man frames old man who has amnesia, starting a wild goose chase with a lot of inconveniences. Frames an old man. Oh, Jesus.
Oh, this was a bit like the Abe's Odyssey one last week. Like, I think you're either going to be like, yes, or it was going to seem bad.
I just thought, now I've never played a Diablo, but what's his name? Deckard something, I can't think of his name. But he's quite Kane. He's quite a big character in that series. I'm pretty sure he's bald. He might be a quest giver. I'm not sure. I'm going to pause the timer and I'm going to use my one final lifeline, and which is a question. And I'm going to ask you, Matthew Castle, whilst I stall, to come up with a question. I'm going to ask you, is this game part of a trilogy?
Yes.
Do you know what? I think I might have pulled this one out of my arse, Matthew Castle. Starting the timer again, 39 seconds. This might be... Now, I could be completely wrong, but Diablo is all I have. And so I know 3 was like 2013. But obviously the older ones are on there as well. Let's just say Diablo 3, that I'm pretty sure doesn't have a subtitle. Yeah, Diablo 3.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
So it feels like you went into this one without an idea, but you grasped onto something, this image of a bald man known to you as Deckard Cain.
A little beard on him as well, I'm sure.
Bald and bearded. You're thinking Deckard Cain. You asked the question, is this part of a trilogy? There is indeed 3 Diablo games. I didn't do any bullshit with there is a 4th Diablo game coming out. We're talking about games that are out now. But is it the right answer? The correct answer is The Witcher 2, Assassins of Kings. Geralt famously has amnesia.
Bollocks.
The bald man's the bad guy in it. the assassin.
Yeah. The fella you meet at the end.
Letha,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Shit. All right. I'm okay with that. I didn't.
I think that was a
contentious Mystery Steam reviews.
Yeah. Kind of. I just kind of want to put it behind us. It's not. I don't really get much satisfaction from that victory.
Fraught. That one. But look, congratulations.
I feel like in true RPG fashion, we've managed to get one of the bad endings. So
yeah,
let's save scum and let's go to a place where things are a bit happier.
Let's move on. Yeah, let's answer the people's questions.
I will say,
yes,
of all the intros to the intro sections and the intro animations, that's the one which is going to be the most baffling on the podcast. You say, let's answer the people's questions, then they hear the sound of flames and screaming, and they may assume you are now dying in a fire. What you've missed, people at home, is that there are some question marks on fire because it's burning questions.
Indeed.
Really, that intro sting should end with burning questions.
But that's why I say this is the part of the PC Gaming Weekspot where we answer your questions, your burning questions.
Yes, but for those 5 seconds, it's the sound of a man being burnt to death.
The question part of it is missing in I don't know how, maybe someone going, huh? Maybe. I don't know. But yes, you can send us your burning questions at any stage throughout the week by emailing us weekspot@rockpapershotgun.com. And we may then read your correspondence out on the show. Mog got in touch, gave us a tenner for this, which you
thank you, Mog.
which you can do if you watch this on YouTube, youtube.com/rockpapershot.
You can post us £10 in the mail.
So thanks very much for that, Mog. Mog asked, Advent calendars, do you prefer collectibles, e.g. Lego, or edibles, e.g. chocolate or pork scratchings?
Is there a pork scratching calendar?
I'm not sure.
I've only ever had a chocolate one. I like chocolate. I'm not a big fan of sort of tat.
Well,
I don't have a lot of tat.
Have you seen those classy Advent calendars? The ones that, like I say, classy. They're more expensive, and the tat isn't as shit. Like
a watch and things like that.
There's what's her name? Because she got into hot water when she advertised it for some reason. It was a Boots calendar. Zoella. Are you familiar with the work of Zoella? Do you know the name Zoella?
I'm aware of the name, yeah.
Yeah. She's a YouTuber lady, and she did an advent calendar for Boots, and I remember it was like £50. I think, did she get into... Oh, do you know what it was? I think the contents of the calendar didn't amount to £50, and they were things that you could buy in Boots. So they were selling like 30 quid worth of stuff for £50, whatever it was. But you can, I don't know. I think the chocolate advent calendars are fine. Yeah. Like, unless you're going to buy, I'm sure there are some sort of like Rolex calendar that's cost you loads, but I don't like watches anyway. Another question we have, kind of related to buying stuff, I suppose, from Valoon. What were your best buys during the Black Friday sales this year? Steam, Humble Bundle, etc., etc., etc. Did you buy anything, Matthew?
I didn't, no.
Yeah, neither did I.
I've been saving I bought a PlayStation 5 when they came out, which felt like an extravagant toy purchase, and so I feel like I can't buy myself anything nice ever again.
I was saving up for a graphics card, and we all know how that went. Another question. If you could will a game into existence, what would it be? Game of your own design, pre-existing series you want revived or remaster, reboot, etc. And that is from Prawn Stores Stiffy, which sounds rude. purely because it's in my head, I would love to see what Metal Gear Solid 6 would look like without. I know we talked about one person not being the team, etc., etc. But Hideo Kojima being such a figure on that series and such an influence for so many years, seeing a Metal Gear Solid 6 without his influence, I find very intriguing. I'd love to know what that would be. I don't know who I would put in. I'm not even talking about who I'd give Metal Gear Solid 6 to, either a development studio or director or anything. Just from anyone. Seeing Metal Gear Solid 6 from a different team would be cool.
Yeah, that would be good. I'd like another Witcher. I mean, I think they are doing one. I think that's the plan. Thought they said they weren't going to, and now they're like, yeah, we probably are going to do one. But a Witcher 4, whatever shape that would take. I really like The Witcher 3.
Is there any sort of... Yeah.
To be honest, the we talked about it a few weeks ago. The IO Bond thing is kind of a...
That was the game you would have said here.
It's a kind of like, when they say it, you're like, oh yeah, that's a great, that's sort of a dream game thing.
Mm-hmm. Thomas got in touch, and this is an interesting one, Matthew. So Thomas said, "Hi, this is intended as a serious question, and one I've been wondering about for some time. We're all adults, etc., etc. All right?
Okay.
We're all adults.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, why does there not seem to be a game intended to primarily be sexually arousing?
Right.
But that also has good gameplay. It has to be intentionally sexual. Just because someone out there plays COD with one hand doesn't mean it is an erotic game with good gameplay. Is it not possible to marry the activity of playing a game and the other activity? Is it because there is no financial incentive? I doubt that, says Thomas. I'd expect it to be the biggest genre, if anything. Perhaps there are some titles out there that I've never heard of, or perhaps developers of good games just don't want to ruin their careers. Thoughts? Kind regards, Thomas. So, seriously, Matthew, what? Why? Why does there not seem to be a game intended to primarily be sexually arousing that also has good gameplay?
Don't know. Is it a question of not censorship, but like certification? Or on a logistical ground, is it like where you'd sell such a thing?
Not on Steam. Steam is kind of a free for all, really. Like, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
well, I think
it sort of makes sense. Like, why isn't there? You could ask this of a lot of things, though. There are. I'd say there are a lot of things which have like adult material in a sophisticated way, but are not, I wouldn't say primarily are for like sexual gratification. Like, there aren't many films, for example, like not porn films aside, like mainstream films they may have sex scenes in them, but there's not many times where people set out to go like, I'm making a mainstream film and its primary purpose is that it's going to be like horny as hell and it's going to be good. Because those things, you have the like erotic thrillers of the 80s.
Well, I just thought, like, would you classify something like Magic Mike? Or, I don't know, what else is I'd
say it's about like that industry, but it isn't in itself designed to be
fair. Yeah.
Like,
so like
a sex thing like that, like there are like sex games, but there's like
they're not mainstream.
Like erotic visual novels and stuff like that. They're also very naff and like the few that do make it over and get localized are always incredibly childish, very anime. It's very kind of sort of, it's more like hentai sort of stuff, isn't it? Like, and it's a bit. It's all very kind of. It's actually very like inane and childish in terms of a grown-up thing. I don't know. Like, I often thought. I know it's a bit naff, but like something about the Witcher, are sort of notoriously horny games, but also they're not like tittering about it. They're just like grown-up characters doing kind of grown-up things. and that's kind of fine. It kind of gets, I don't know, like that sort of like feels closest to that, but it will only ever be a part of a bigger thing. Like, I don't know.
I mean, I think the reason you're not going to get, I suppose it's a different question though. I was going to like the reason you're not going to get like mainstream, sexy games is because, well, you don't get mainstream sexy films. You don't get like, it's just, people are all right with violence, but sex is a bigger hurdle. You know, you can.
It's an American thing, isn't it? They're meant to be more prudish about that stuff than.
I think they probably are more prudish, but like sex here is carry on, you know. Barbara Windsor like doing her stretches and her bra coming off. Like it's a little bit more. Do you ever see the Body Hospital sketch from Mitchell and Webb? They're like that type of, you know. But it's why there isn't one with good gameplay is because you need two hands and predominantly. And
it could have who would invest that much money, and they don't want to, I guess, be like, no one wants to be the first with any of these things. But I would argue, like, you know, in any form of pop culture, anything which primarily sets out just to be kind of titillating is usually also quite bad. Like in books, 50 Shades of Grey, and, you know, they always give out those bad sex awards in books for all the terrible sex scenes that people write. Likewise in films, it's always a bit of an eye roller. Like, it just sounds like maybe watch some pornography if that's really what you want.
It sounds like a good recommendation to me, Matthew.
Watch some smut on the internet while playing Snake on your phone.
But well done to us. I think we answered that very maturely. Ben got in touch. Ben said, "Hi, Colm. On the excellent Electronic Wireless Show pod, we often get non-gaming recommendations from your glamorous Gaming Weekspot co-host. So my question is, what have you, Colm Ahern, been enjoying recently and would recommend? Thanks, Ben." I have been enjoying Christmas films recently, Ben. By recently, I mean this past weekend. That's how recent we're getting. I watched 2 at the weekend, Matthew, because we put up the Christmas tree. We're really trying to get into the Christmas spirit of things. We put up the Christmas tree, watched a few Christmas films. We watched one, The Christmas Chronicles 2, which is the Kurt Russell Goldie Hawn vehicle, which I think is actually better than the first one. And I don't think that's saying, it's not like the first one was.
Yeah, oh my God.
The first one was blow away and, you know, something you'll always go back to.
It's not like Godfather and Godfather Part 2.
But it's the first one is, I think, like considerably better. I think that is a nice, and the child from Hunt for the Wilder People is in it as well. But yeah, I thought that was enjoyable. But what I really liked and I would recommend is Jingle Jangle, which is the new musical from. Oh, what's the director's name? Oh, I can't remember. But Forrest Whitaker's in it. Keegan Michael Key is in it. It's about this toy maker this inventor who gets all his inventions stolen and chaos and madness ensue. But the songs are really good. But I think the story is, because the comparison point is The Greatest Showman, which has excellent songs, but like a shite story, like a really poor story. We were talking about Twin Mirror earlier and like maybe tackling things. The Greatest Showman just fucking glides over so many topics that I could delve deeper into, but it doesn't. It's like, you know, this is the greatest show. And it's like, yes, Hugh, it is, because it's a great song. But like this Jingle Jangle actually has a really engaging, nice Christmas story with good songs on top of that. Are they as good as Greatest Showman? I don't know. I'd have to kind of watch it again. But yeah, I don't know. And if you want,
as good as Greatest Showman.
If you want see, I love musicals. I mean, that's, you know,
I like it too. I was just trying to like get some cred.
Trying to be content
with the bad boys by pretending I didn't like it, but I do like it.
You know, if you want a wider recommendation, watch musicals. They're one of the greatest forms of theatre on this planet. and anyone who says otherwise is a tit. Another question we have is from Slightly Salted Steve, who asks, do you think Cyberpunk 2077 can possibly live up to the hype that's set for it? I feel like this is the most hyped game since GTA 5, and I can't see how it can possibly meet expectations at this point. We'll talk about Cyberpunk more next week, because hopefully the both of us will have played it by then. But can it live up to the hype? I mean, can anything that has this much hype around it? I would say no. But I haven't played it. I haven't seen anything. You know, I don't know. But like purely from when something generates that much buzz and people's expectations are heightened so much, purely because of purely through marketing, I don't know, but it could be a life-changing experience. I have no idea. I
imagine it will be very good.
Yeah. That's
as were many other games this year.
That's probably what it will be. But some people will be expecting that transcendent experience.
I think
I don't know, they might get it.
It's just interesting to see what it'll actually be. You know, it's quite hard to piece it together from afar, and what they've shown, the little snatches. Also, whether how they framed it is what it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, if you think back to The Witcher 3, was how little they actually showed off of The Witcher 3, and they basically showed such a tiny sliver of it, and the full thing was quite kind of beyond my expectations, which was the pleasant surprise. I'm sort of hoping a similar deal here.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Our next question is from Ross. Ross asks, seeing as the Christmas chat went down well last week, what is your Christmas tub of chocolates of choice? So your heroes, your roses, your Quality Street, your celebrations.
Miniature heroes. I like Cadbury stuff, so Cadbury's for me. Though I wish they didn't put the cream egg ones in there because they're grim.
I mean, wrong. No, the cream egg ones are lovely. I think I would go. My favorite chocolates are probably in the celebrations box, but I would go a heroes because my least favorite are also in the celebrations box. So like Maltesers, for example, they are phenomenal. The teaser little things. Bounty, fuck off. Like there is.
I don't like Snickers either.
And Snickers as well. Yeah, exactly. We've gone through my dislike of nuts. I would probably say heroes as well, because Cadbury's chocolate is very nice, and it's very nice. And our final question comes from Guy, who asks, stories about your paths into video games journalism would be nice. Matthew, your initial, I suppose, I think that's what Guy isn't asking for our career retrospectives. He's not saying Michael Aspel come on down and take these lives through their entire careers. But what was your actual path into video games journalism?
I read Nintendo magazines growing up, specifically N64 and NGC. Then when in the summer after I left university, NGC relaunched as N-Gamer, and in their news page, there was a little advert that said, do you want to come and be our next writer? Come and apply for this job. I applied for the job. I got the job. It's not a very interesting route in. Wasn't ever a thing I thought I could do job-wise. Wasn't something I was planning to do. Didn't particularly train for it. Hadn't had work experience or anything because, I've been reading these magazines for years and the staff never really seemed to change. So you were like, well, I'm not going to bet everything on this being a thing I can do. But yeah, got it. And have sort of moved around within and now scaled the high heights of not having a job and doing this every week, which I enjoy.
Good. I'm glad you added that little caveat at the end. My path is slightly different, and I think that's what you'll find when you talk to anyone within video games media. My path is to some people, the much maligned path of quote unquote working for free, because that's what I did. I started off working at a website for no money. But like I suppose the thing is, right? I take umbrage with that if people at the website are getting money. If none of you are making any cash and it becomes a bit of a, a project, just kind of, it feels very, do you know what? It's a very bonding experience. It's like being, if you're younger and you're in a band, if you're whatever. And that's kind of how we started. And then from there did a little bit of freelance, went to work at a developer, Bossa Studios, for a bit, kind of seeing how the sausage was made from a marketing standpoint, and then joined Video Gamer. And then I left there, did a bit of freelance, and then I ended up here chatting to Matthew Castle about video games.
Yes.
That's your lot for your burning questions. But
it's exciting insight.
Indeed, if you want to ask us anything or have any comments or anything like that, get in touch, Weekspot at rockpapershotgun.com. And that just about does it for this week's edition of the PC Gaming Weekspot. Thank you very much, dear listener, dear viewer, for listening or for viewing. But of course, if you want more of Colm and Matthew, there is many ways you can get more. So you can follow us both on social media. I am at Colm_Ahern. Matthew is at Mr. Basil_Pesto. You can also talk to some like-minded lovely people on Discord, discord.gg/rockpapershotgun. If you want to watch the video version of this, head to youtube.com/rockpapershot, where you can like, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell, all that lovely YouTube stuff. But if you're just looking for the audio version, you can subscribe to the PC Gaming Weekspot podcast via all of your lovely podcatching apps, such as Stitcher, TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, so on and so forth. But for all of your Rock Paper Shotgun and PC gaming needs, head to rockpapershotgun.com. That's another Weekspot down, Matthew. Have you any final words for the people at home, or anything to plug or anything like that?
Just wear a mask.
You can plug your new podcast. Tell the people where they can.
Yeah, I'm doing a podcast at the moment.
The third Matthew Castle podcast.
I'm doing a podcast with my good friend Samuel Roberts. He used to edit PC Gamer, and we're doing a podcast where we talk about, I guess it's video games through the lens of our time on magazines. Quite nostalgic for the period of sort of 2006 to maybe 2016, where we were very busy with magazine stuff and the games of that era. It's called The Back Page, a video games podcast. It's called The Back Page because the back page of a games magazine's always got some weird guff on it. That we have to explain that suggests a failing.
Lovely.
But there you go. But please do. That's on anywhere you get podcasts. So please give that a listen.
Excellent. And of course, as we, I think we can call this the Rock Paper Shotgun Podcast Network. Also do listen to the Electronic Wireless Show. Subscribe to that. And hopefully more to come from Rock Paper Shotgun audio-wise in the new year. But now it's time for my least favourite part of the show. This is the part of the PC Gaming Weekspot where we must bid the listener, the viewer, the consumer adieu. So say goodbye, Matthew Castle.
Goodbye.
And say goodbye, Colm Ahern, Sloan Gafford.